Hey, welcome to the Code Review Weekly Workshop, and we got some stuff we're going to talk about. Koss has got some stuff we're going to talk about. What's going on, Koss?
We recently discussed several things on the processes on the review, and we discussed how we can meet the reviewers, how we can jump straight
Right.
to maintainers, and that kind of stuff. I just wanted to share one example of requiring a front-end engineer review, and it was like a full review on a change that actually has only one HAML line change,
Mm.
and it
Yeah.
actually, has just a logic change in that. And due to the time zone differences, it was quite big. But I think the lesson learned here is that uh, we as contributors, we do follow this process, not to the T, but we try to follow the what DangerBot suggests. So we try to play on the rules. And due to the time zone differences, I think it dropped like 8 hours
Yeah.
from the actual merge. Um, so in theory, it could be merged earlier. And I think there were reviewers after me on different subjects, but it's just one example that, hey, if it's written, we usually tend to follow that. And I noticed that I did a similar thing also, just this week when I pushed test changes and I required another set of reviewers. Yeah, so it's just to the discussion of if
Yeah.
we update our documentation, we still need to think how we, properly present this
Yep.
to the contributors here.
Yeah, what do you think would be a helpful way? Because right now it's too unnuanced, maybe.
Hmm.
But like Hamel's a really good point where when there's change in a Hamel file, we don't know whether it's a front end change or a back end change when
Hmm.
DangerBot runs. And so DangerBot starts suggesting both. And that makes some reviewers that are wanting to follow the process just
Hmm.
go through many more hoops than what are actually probably necessary. What do you think would be a
Yeah,
good
and
way to communicate that?
um, I think that we won't be able to cover all the nuances, and that's fine. We are humans, and we are here to add this, let's say that nuanced thinking. As to the as to the this particular case, we could add a rule, just figuring out if it's a just logic injection in a HAML, then we can skip the front end reviewer. Also, I think this danger bot could give the reasons why it thinks it needs a front end review.
Hmm.
I have detected a change in this file, and that's why I think we need that. And maybe it could give some, I don't know. We are AI company now. We can add some AI, just maybe estimating the probability that it's really. I think I overcomplicate that. I think just one sentence that, hey, it might not require that. It just, it's what the bot thinks it's not required. Maybe that could help.
Hmm. Yeah, adding the context for why DangerBot is suggesting the category makes a lot of sense.
Yes, for sure. I was also thinking that that might be a slippery slope, but maybe empowering our maintainers a little more. And that doesn't mean that we should be, or they should be able to do all the things, but I kind of have the feeling that in case of doubt, not everywhere, but like for example on a Hammer file, that a front-end maintainer or a back-end maintainer should be given the power or the responsibility to be like, this is on my watch. That is, we are okay with skipping backend review here or the other part of the review because I can take responsibility for what's going on here. That is all right by me. So not very strictly following Dangerbot, but giving it a little bit of leeway. And like when I first saw it, I was like, okay, that's gonna go wrong. Probably not a good idea. But adding to that the danger bot explanation and then working with that, I as a maintainer would feel quite comfortable with it because I would be like, if the danger bot explanation would have like the slightest thing that would make me feel uncomfortable, I'd be like, yeah, like backend eyes don't hurt, but if it is super straightforward, then I'd be like, okay, let's stay efficient, don't waste time.
Yeah.
I think we also sometimes underuse post review. If something is not so dangerous to be merged, like the consequences of that might not be, critical. And you as a, for example, as a backend maintainer, you see that, yeah, it's a minor front-end change. Maybe we could have async reviews there. Just go on with the merge and ask a front-end maintainer to follow up on
Yeah.
that. Um,
I like that idea, but I know that there's some people get cautious about the
So
slippery
we
slope of opening up that door at all.
so did I just hear like a merge and review later? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
of course, right? Why not?
Uh,
Why don't we do that?
maybe I'm on the other side of that opinion.
Yeah. So I ran across this problem too. I added on the agenda an issue uh that I opened a while ago for uh review efficiency. And if you scroll down to the bottom,
and do you want to walk through that?
oh, scroll to the top. Sorry, up there we go. The one that says evidences. If you hit that merge request,
One evidence is not evidences.
this is true. You're right. So look at the changes. All right, this was the
Did
merge
did it
request.
ask for a backend review?
Then look at how many people approved it. And it's like had
Oh yeah.
6 reviewers
Uh,
for some like utility class changing.
mhm.
And
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's over the
yeah,
top.
the but if you scroll down, if you scroll down, I
I think
guess
I saw a UX review
yeah, Chad
there.
probably reached out for UX review, but then someone else I guess reviewed. Yeah, it was just a lot. And I was like,
Yeah,
what?
because I edited the XAML file. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just the way our danger bot is communicating that's not
Mhm.
clear. Um,
Yes.
Oh, so the danger bot picks the XAML as both, does it?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely not what we want, probably. Yeah, to what Yannick said, the about the maintainers being more thoughtful. In this case, the maintainer suggested that, hey, we might want, so they were not as confident in this change.
Mm.
Does anybody in here have any insights how the danger bot works?
Paul has.
Paul, do
Yeah,
you? I've no idea about this. Like, if I may quickly interrupt, a loose train of thought it just went through my head. So, DangerBot is a piece of logic. We have a XAML file. We have Duo chat. We have Duo workflow. Piping in changes in there, being like, is front end affected? Is back end affected? What do you think? Might be a use
yes. It
case
looks at
here.
the changes on the merge request. Files changed and figures out based on code owners and other things on the merge request who should it roll for the review or relay. Um, Yeah, just 1 sec. Let me see this.
Oh, sure. Elite state danger GitHub page.
It's really mainly in our GitLab roulette. It's not necessarily in DangerBot, I think. Maybe. Let me see.
Do we have a repo for DangerBot? Like, is it a
So we
separate
have some
one?
danger files in the local
Right.
but then yeah, I think we have a gem that has like other DangerBot stuff. But then we have GitLab roulette. Uh oh, but that's just does the stats and stuff. Yeah, it's in here somewhere. It's in here. Where is it? Yeah, we can go to it. Yeah, where would it be? We go to
You want to share your screen?
no, because I'm not there yet.
Hell no.
Yeah. I wish there was some also links here to,
Yeah,
to
that's one thing I wanted to do would be like from the
Mhm.
main project, can we have a doc file that like points to every other GitLab project? You know,
Oh yeah.
that would be really helpful. Here it is. Um, I'll share my screen.
I thought we have like
Oh, you'll have to
over
stop.
9,000 of those projects.
Oh, okay. Um, so here in GitLab danger files, we have yeah, one of the plugins is this roulette thing. Yep, and then we have these like spinners, and it does this based on yep, GitLab danger files spinners. Here's the project. Let me see. And then one of them is the for the given categories. Oh yeah, then you've got your code owner approvals. Oh, prepare categories. Changes keys. Yeah, so you have to follow this stuff. So it's like it's in here. And yeah, this is the file. This is the project.
A side note, as a front-end engineer, for me, it's really hard to, interact with Ruby files. I think we would benefit as a company if we had this common use logic to be in some lingua franca, like in some,
mm.
commonly understood language. And surely it's JavaScript,
Why isn't
not
Ruby that?
Ruby.
Ruby
Yeah.
can't be that. Um, maybe. Uh, where do we have? We were doing something over here, like approval reviewers. No. Anyways, it's in here. Yeah, if you do search for front end too, it'll be in this file. Let me see if I can open up the project. Uh, anyways, yeah, we don't have to dive into it, but yeah, that's how some of the stuff works. So when we run DangerBot is run on the project. So you have danger files on the main GitLab project, but some of it imports from this other gem of danger files because we use those outside of the main GitLab project. So this specifically this like reviewer selection one. And I believe though that the reviewer selection might reach out to that roulette. The reviewer selection might actually reach out to like the roulette GitLab Pages app. You know what I'm talking about? That might actually be how it determines who's available or not. So it might be a couple of services talking to each other. I'm not entirely sure.
Mhm.
Anyways, yeah. But we should improve the communication there. And that other issue that I opened already is kind of focused on that. And
Do you want to walk through that quickly?
the issue,
Yeah, yeah.
sure. So sometimes, often, MR authors seek out more reviews than was actually required, and it's not efficient. So here's the picture of that MR I sent. Lots of approvals needed for a simple change. And so things to observe is like, okay, the way we communicate, we just communicate this matrix of approvals of like, based on all the categories, here's reviewer and maintainers that need to approve it. And if you're not, super familiar with our processes, you're going to be reaching out for a lot more reviews than you need. So proposals are, let's change DangerBot's communication. Something about the way DangerBot communicates is making it seem like there's more than necessary. My other brainstorm is, what if we had an official trivial MR process? So if I am a merge request author, I can assign a label to it saying this is a trivial MR, and DangerBot will just ping a single maintain, front end or back end, of like, if I'm just changing text or whatever, something on that lines. Um, and but if the maintainer is like, hey, I actually don't think this is trivial, let's take off the label and actually do the process, then we can do that. That was my other idea, is like, okay, if something's truly trivial, we don't need to do the whole song and dance if we can agree that it is.
I like that the something changes the danger pot, like something changes its output, saying that, hey, this is trivial and we don't want to all to pin everyone. One thing that I doubt is that adding this label would require the same level of, confidence and kind of breaking the rules as it is now. Like, how much that is different from currently if we just ask a maintainer to, omit the other part of the review.
Right.
Like
I think we
it's
I
kind
think
of
we
the
do
same.
this. The difference is that we could actually make it official. Is like, rather than us inferring from the current rules that we are allowed to do that, it might make it might be helpful if in DangerBot and in some of our merge request creation, like we make that just of a more of a, I don't know, bona fide part of the process of like, oh, I can mark this as trivial. This is a trivial MR.
What do you think if the danger bot would ask contributor for an input confirming that this is a please reply to this comment, add in I think it contains such and such labels like front end, back end documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Please, refine this, what do you think this requires, and the input of the user, conscious input. The problem I have with the adding the label is that first the danger bot adds the reviewers, and then I have to change something, kind of breaking the behavior. And if it asks me, this is a bit different process because I'm the first to give the input, and I think that it doesn't need, for example, backend maintainer review or something. So,
Mm-hmm.
just checking the boxes and
Yeah. I think that's yeah, I think it would be helpful for DangerBot to lead that discussion, like, or to lead that communication. Because that is what people are using as the single source of truth for like, what's the process supposed to be here? Even though I think, our docs, the reality is DangerBot is just a tool, and our handbook is more of the source of truth, but people really lean on what DangerBot's saying. So I
yeah,
think it makes
because it's
sense. I think it
close.
makes sense to let DangerBot like needs to guide the merge request author a little better.
Yeah,
Yeah, and maybe it's enough for DangerBot to just say, if this is a trivial MR, you can go straight to the maintainer, or whatever. Maybe that's enough.
um yeah, to your to your point about the handbook, I think the example I gave was also to highlight that people tend to, I think, trust what you have immediately in the UI, like you're on the DMR and this is what you're given, and we are biased to follow that, not the handbook that needs an extra reach and reading a whole bunch of documentation. I think this is something that we front-end developers should be strong at, the UI, and this is where the UI kind of biases to the danger bot comment.
Mm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you all want to go to the next topics?
I have a quick other one. Do, do you have any, thoughts how to follow up on this one?
Well, I think
We
I
just
think that
discussed.
issue is a big deal, and there's a lot of positive feedback towards changing the
Right.
danger by communication. I think we just need an
Mhm.
MR that changes the danger by communication. And
Right.
so I think that's the follow-up.
Yeah, the link is in the doc, so we can follow up
Mhm.
on that. Another one I
Oh
wanted to
no.
share is
Oh
a
no. This is a CSS MR.
CSSMR. And yeah, and this is a revert example. So here, before me, only Sasha reviewed that, and uh, he gave a bunch of feedback, polishing the UI. Though there were some, sorry for scrolling, though there were some places that had a misalignment. So yeah, this MR adjusts the header on the files. So it yeah, I'll have to jump to the div. So basically, we refine the common file header definition, and we update a bunch of places where that it
Mm,
used, and drop in some alignment, some margin, that kind of stuff. So this is related to file headers across the whole project. And straight after the UX review, I'm asked to be a maintainer reviewer here, and I start that at the end of my day, and I find a couple of not offenses, UX issues, and I share them, and I say that, hey, I don't have time to continue that, but I want to give an early feedback, so I share that,
yeah.
and also I asked for a proper review on this one, because we skipped the review, because
Mm,
it's so impactful that I want other set
yeah.
of eyes to take a look at that, because I don't trust myself to find all the places, and I
Yeah. It's good.
ask another front-end reviewer, and I picked a time zone, so they are coming early. And yeah, so the next issue we come up with is that there are places of the project that are hard to be accessed, and they require additional setup. So one is for
Mm,
finer search systems, and the other one is for Sentry. Uh, Both of them are not so easy to set up. Uh,
yeah.
One other thing, did you know we have a merge conflicts page on
I did
MRs?
know this.
How do you access that through UI? Do you know that?
Yeah, there has to be a merge conflict.
If you have a merge conflict on one of my local MRs, I'm not sure I have the tab. It just said that, hey, you have
And
conflicts
resolve
and you have to
locally.
resolve them locally. Yeah. So
Yeah, somehow there's a way to do it through the UI. Um, well, it depends like how much of a conflict there is.
yeah. I guess that if it's, if it's resolvable in some
Yeah, you found
way.
it though, right?
It is accessible through the just URL manipulation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it allows you to
Okay,
not
but there's no
here. Oh
conflicts for this
yeah.
one.
Oh, it's
All right.
merged.
Nice, nice.
So yeah, it's available on some MRs. But anyway, yeah, two of those were really hard to reproduce, and I think we had an agreement with the UX team to share the screenshots of that, and this MR surely had
Nice,
not enough, so I asked for them to reach to
nice.
the relevant teams. And I have doubts on that because I think maybe I should have reached to the teams asking for proper reviews to
Mm,
back me up
It's
here. Because I put the load back on the contributor, which doesn't feel right.
is
But I already spent a good time on this.
is this
So
an
yeah.
MR or a company-wide initiative?
Um,
what's the difference, man?
Yeah. Um, you know what crossed my mind on this is like this screams feature flag to me.
Mm,
This would
just because of the
probably,
scope of it.
yeah. Like I think like my first approach would be to implement this behind a flag. S- Then we
Maybe.
can easily review it like on the
Mm,
changes side, then ping teams, enable the flag internally. And if we don't hear nothing about it for a milestone, then we're probably good to go. Because like
how do you see that with the CSS change? Like I did want to iterate here, and I said that
yeah, it's kind
um
of hard.
it touches another subject. I did say that hey boom 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 yeah, I don't know. So if it would be good if contributor provided the screenshots, or we had an easy way to access those pages
Mm,
rendered, and we have end-to-end jobs that do visit those pages. So it
but
wouldn't be too hard to do that.
we
And
don't have the jobs, do we?
sorry?
We don't have these end-to-end top jobs that are like reliable at the moment.
We do have jobs that I assume somehow mock the environment to visit those pages. So we have some,
oh, we have feature
some
specs too.
coverage.
Oh, but that's a
Yeah,
good point though. It's like that's
Yeah,
actually the way to test visually. Have you ever used feature specs to get to a page?
um, I
That's
did
that's the
try.
way.
I did try to do that, but I kind of failed, and the only output I had was without the CSS.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Oh
yeah,
no.
yeah.
What? Oh,
And I'm not
that's
sure it provides the full when it dumps the page. I'm not sure it creates the full, JavaScript there. So yeah, I did try to approach that from that aspect, but I kind of failed.
so
Uh,
a couple of things is and I think there's an opportunity to we need to equip every engineer needs to be able to find a way to get to any page. And through our feature specs and end-to-end tests is a great way to do that. Rather
oh
than,
yeah,
okay,
and
let me
and
try to seed the database with some stuff or whatever.
and
Um,
storybooks is
storybooks are cool. That's
yeah.
very idealistic.
But
I would,
it's so easy. In my team, we have set up
yeah,
storybooks for our sub ops, and it's super easy just to
that's
open
cool.
them and
And
use
and
it.
maybe that's the thing too of how can I just get view this component? Maybe I gotta just spin up
I
a quick
tried
story
that.
for that. Retried
I
it, then it
tried
was
that. Yeah, I tried the end-to-end specs. I failed because of the CSS, and one of the pages required some additional setup, and running just the spec didn't give me the results. I tried building this storybook, but it
did you do a
required
feature
some,
spec?
super specific. Sorry.
Did you do a feature spec?
Uh, I call the feature specs end-to-ends.
Oh, because we actually have
Is
another set of specs which are end-to-end tests.
we have
Yeah, I know.
what was that? Uh,
The
I
QA,
remember.
the QA tests, oh, that whole QA directory,
Yeah, I tried the feature specs, not the QA
the feature
ones.
specs. Okay, and that one
Yeah.
wasn't working. The QA directory can be interesting. Like you could try those tests actually are they're pretty runnable.
Mhm.
Um, and if you do it with I mean, you can add
binding prime.
binding pry, but also
And
do run it with headless false, and you can see it. So like you can get to anywhere in the page that those QA
that's
tests
cool.
go to. I think that there's an opportunity for us to we need to train all reviewers. Those are faster ways to visually get to certain places.
Mhm.
Um that
Um,
I think is worth it.
I'm not
Can I
sure
drop
the
an idea here?
yeah,
Oh,
go on.
That what you just said, Paul, would be a fantastic video for Unfiltered.
yeah, maybe you should try that out. Maybe let's see if
Yeah,
we could do that with here.
like a session or maybe next week in this meeting or whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
But like as a reviewer or an engineer, getting to every page we have at GitLab in a breeze.
Yeah.
That would be a lot, that would add a lot of value to have that video flying around. Can I put it on the
Yeah.
agenda for next week? Would you be okay?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. I might try to see if I have a time.
So,
I'm gonna be
sorry to put
working a
you
little
on
bit,
to put
so
you on the spot. I'll put
no,
it
I
in your
definitely want to.
section.
I think it's worth it. I'm gonna. Thanks for including this merge request and the agenda. I'm gonna see if my hypothesis that these can be quickly accessible through some of the tests, but I know that sometimes you do run into issues where it's not rendering correctly because it's a whole different setup, you know. But that might be a Veet thing. I blame Veet. I don't. I'm all Webpack all the way.
Sure. uh I did try also dumping the files, and that gave me the no CSS files from the, I think it were feature specs, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
no, yeah,
Yannick brought up like feature flagging, and it's really hard. Like this kind of CSS flagging, I don't think you
yeah,
could
yeah.
feasibly do that. We do need to be able to visually test all the pages. And I think you did the best thing too. If we can't get to it, let's ping people who have those setups to just quickly check. And and I think people are generally helpful in that way. But the CSS
Mhm.
changes are tough. And I know that there's so much pressure to just merge it. But I think we gotta
Yeah.
do the due diligence, you know?
I imagine that for the CSS changes, it would be very useful if the feature specs and or QA specs would dump some steps of their visits into
Mm,
just HTML, and those pages would be openable as a artifacts from the pipeline jobs. So if
yeah.
I have a MR that ran that, so maybe I could just open those, I don't know, those archive and search for entries of that CSS change, and just open those pages and verify them, just by opening that. And
Yeah.
I think it's super easy to do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. I think yeah, these are always interesting in Mars.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's one of the I think this CSS and front end spillage is one of the most complicated parts of GitLab of just how there's so much overlap. I think I'm just touching this, but I don't realize like, oh, file content header is actually also used for, I don't know, security
Our
snippets.
global scope is quite big. That is for sure. That is also one of the reasons I get like a pretty high heart rate when I see somebody rendering a component or whatever. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
the context.
it's challenging.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And finding the usages of some components for shared HAMLs, shared view files, it's really, really hard to unwrap all the import, graphs, import trees, that file could be rendered on some page. And this is where I
Yeah.
also suspect that these dumps of HTML files could be useful, just with the with the debug info that we have for local development, just saying that, hey, this imported this HAML, maybe similar thing for the view files, and just having that dump somewhere, a dump of files that would be searchable by us. Like we could easily just find if this view component or this HAML partial or component was inputted somewhere, and we can find those places easily. Just to find the URLs for them or really open them as a dumped file and just verify them there. Just, we already walked through the wall up. Why don't we utilize this?
Yeah, I think it's
sort of
doable.
further end.
That'd be really fun. Like, what if there's a script? What if we had like a project script and I can run like, I don't know, script slash find pages and I pass in a file and it'll show me all of the actual pages that render that file.
That would be useful for our pipelines too.
That does sound useful.
We could limit the scope of the pipelines then.
But I think it's doable. Like if you trace the import, like you just walk up the import path, like it sounds very doable. It's kind of what we do manually, but it's actually like I think we all have done it manually. It's like, why haven't we automated this? Maybe we could do that.
I'm not sure I do that manually right, because it has so many branching outs. Like I see that this file is imported in another file, and the answer is
do you know what I do? I know. Do you know what I do? I have a notebook with me and I write it out. I was like, okay, this is it. All right, then
with
I'm
a
gonna
pen and
search for
paper.
this one, and oh yeah.
Paul, we have to have GitLab unfiltered on that too.
All right.
Yeah.
You've nerd sniped me with this script now. I kind of want to do that.
That was the rest of his day.
Yeah. I think we've talked about that like for ages, about having a
so doable and so helpful, right?
Yeah. About a system that has automatically understands the scope of impact of some change.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to have routine for. We have to have just imports from HAML, which is weird and not weird, but hard to debug, because I think it can often do some weird leaking, and we have to do front end import tree here, but it's doable, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I think you can hack together a bash script that just greps. Like you could do it. I know. Definitely has holes in it, but it's doable. Not as sophisticated as like if we were actually able to resolve the imports, with our. But anyways, I'm gonna be thinking about that just a little bit.
Yeah, if the bash scripts gives us false, what is that? False positives or false negatives, includes more stuff than we need that is already useful for the pipelines. At least it would cut off other things. Like if bash script gives us all the layout .html.haml partials, that's fine. It's a little bit more than we need, but it's fine.
It's better than nothing.
For the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, how cool it'd be if we then associated, all these feature specs have hit these pages. And so if I have an MR that's only hitting these pages, we don't need to run.
That's the idea. I thought that we are talking about that.
Doable.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The pipelines would greatly benefit from that, having a limited scope of impact, and maybe the QA and feature specs would be limited, and also the maintainers would have more trust in what has changed. Sorry for taking so long. Thanks for listening out. Let's create a follow-up task from that. Yannick, back to you on your topic. Yeah.
Awesome. No, thanks for bringing those things up. This is absolutely fantastic stuff. So what I'm bringing, it's a bit of a stretch to bring it in the reviewers weekly because it's not yet in review yet. But if you give me 5 minutes of your time, I'd love to pick your brains on this because I'm struggling to get things in review on this. Am I sharing the right screen? What do you see? Like screenshots?
I see
Yeah, the
some
screenshots.
screenshots.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's put it here. I'm currently working on a feature which is complicated and straightforward at the same time. So it's rather straightforward. You know how Duo Chat works, and we are currently working on like a multi-threaded version of Duo Chat. So you
Mm.
have multiple chats, you can like manage them, jump between them, all of that. This is rather clear from an implementation side. I can build that, so that's the good news around this. The problem which I'm struggling is build it behind a feature flag. Okay, cool. But none of those features, and I see like 5, 6, 7 features in there, they make any sense without the other. Like it is really hard to create a new chat, but don't display it. To manage shared chats, but don't delete them. So building is one thing. Building this in one iteration is also pretty possible, but you are just piling up lines and lines of diff on a feature like that so quickly.
Mm.
So I'm currently kind of like in the prototype phase, and I see those work in progress MRs go bigger and bigger. And this is where my question is. I really feel like how do I get this to review? Because I really want to avoid like assigning pros and Paul like 5,000 lines of changes. Here you go, have fun. That
So
is
do you have like a spike MR that like fleshes this out?
that is what I'm currently at, yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Um,
So yeah,
and so you have a whole bunch of changes right now in MR, and you're curious how do we split it up?
yeah, it works, but it's unreviewable mostly.
Do you happen to have that MR in hand?
Yeah, I do have it. I lied a bit when I said about it works, like it is for sure not feature complete yet, but it is. I bet you it's already big.
Oh, it's okay.
Let me. There is. Did I
I
push?
thought
Yes, thank you.
GitLab.com was feature complete, and but for some reason we're
Yeah,
still working on it.
yeah. So yeah, it's two MRs, one in one in Duo UI, one in GitLab. And yeah, this is a good example. Like I'm nowhere near feature complete, and this is already the size. So for the spike, I expect this to go up like 3, 4 times easily
Mm,
without
okay.
tests.
Okay. Oh, I mean, like if you're adding new components, it's expected it's going to be a little bit. Like if you're adding new components, components are going to take up some space. Um, that's understandable. My suggestion to you, and I'd like to hear what class would say, but my suggestion is build it all out in one MR, like
Mm,
all the way to feature complete.
mm,
Feel free to write tests or not, um, but then as you build it out, look at okay, what was the whole scope of everything we had to touch, and your first MR is usually this like, okay, this vertical spike MR. So I have my draft. I'm not going to just copy code as is. That just helps me figure out my iteration plan. And
mm.
I do then have like some code I can copy as I implement stuff. But then my first MR is behind a feature flag, I stub out all of the the little bits from the stack. I figure out how do we, we just initialize the feature flag, we stub out the components, and then I have MRs that flesh out those stubs. So that's kind of one of the ways I've regularly split MRs that are really large.
That's a
Um,
good thing. Like to make sure I got this right, like basically one MR that introduces a flag and a hello world component, basically. Like this is a placeholder and there's much more to come in here. But it's
yeah,
a digestible chunk. That's
yeah.
what we call, yeah.
So then I end up having, you know, depending on all of this, but you could have, for instance, well, I imagine there's a whole backend component to this. I don't know if the backend already
That's
exists.
merged. That is off the table
Okay.
for now.
But you could have one MR, that isn't talking to the backend yet. We just stubbed it out. Like, so I have an introducing things and integration is great. And then integrate the stubs and then you flesh out the stubs is kind of how I like to split things up.
Yeah, that won't like dual UI is kind of by definition stubbed in completeness. So, but that cut won't really work out here. But going component for component, that could make that could work out for sure.
Yeah, I do agree with Paul's point on splitting the MR component-wise, and these stubs and stubs for components is a good thing. Definitely acceptable, definitely easy to review. One thing I wanted to also share as a draft idea. Sometimes it's easily to create copies of files than try to if else inside of existing files. So if you're working on the chat that would require a lot of these sub features to be tested, maybe we could just have a single high level feature flag for this new functionality. Just copy paste the whole chat and finish the development under this feature flag that we would be testing, I don't know, on some subset or just keep it behind the feature flag, and then have an MR that would merge the two branches of this chart. Like if during that time the original chart that is publicly available would have updates to it, then we'll have to have another final MR to merge these updates into your one.
That's an
That is
interesting.
hard to do.
I really wish we would have had this meeting just a couple of hours earlier. That now that you say it, not as in this particular case where we will not know, but eventually roll this feature out to every IDE. So we can't like we have to feature flag it, but this this is huge. This is going to be here to stay. This actually might be a lot of sense because you are very right. It is now for like the flag phase. There's a lot of complexibility that comes along where you'd be like, okay, we gotta make sure everybody needs our address in this component, and a lot of code you write to kind of address that. So this
Yeah,
might be very feasible here.
yeah, that's a good idea. If we do end up duplicating, I just recommend adding like comments, top level comments to the files of like, hey, this is duplicated over here. Hey, these things point to each other so that if anyone contributes, they can be aware of the full context.
Yeah, just maybe I don't know if you already have the code owners, but at least having, for this time code owners as a must review, and having some,
mhm.
team being aware of that if the changes are put to the code.
Reason why I'm laughing, like as the sole front-end engineer on Duo Chat, whom I'm
You are the
pinging.
code owner.
Therefore, that is kind of
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to put the team name there. You just can put your name, and
Well,
it's even better.
you got to do what I do, which is I send a patch to like someone who's joined GitLab fairly recently. I
that's
send
good.
them a patch and I say, please create an MR based off this patch and assign me as a maintainer. And then we merge it. I'm
That is
joking.
the sneaky way to get things in. I see, I see.
That's part of
Do
the
you send
onboarding process.
do you send these patches via snail mail or something so you don't have any evidence? Or?
Yeah, well, why do you think Paul has that notebook with the pen?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So you're saying the existing components are needing to be changed quite a bit too to support this?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Critics could
Yeah.
say we should have refactored them anyhow, but still, it adds a
Yeah,
lot of
what
code.
Cost is saying makes a lot of sense. Is it might make a lot of sense to just like take what's existing, move it to like old,
Yeah.
and then have a new one that is enabled with the feature flag. That might make a lot of sense. When it comes to like just building out just brand new functionality that's really large, um, I highly suggest, just like I was saying, you summarize as like breaking it up by components. I like creating this first MR that stubs everything. Because that's, as a reviewer, it's very frustrating if I just see a new component being added that's not referenced or used anywhere. So the challenge is almost like, how do I use a bunch of stubs and then flesh out the stubs? To me, that
But
makes a huge difference as a reviewer.
Oh yeah.
yeah, you know what? I already changed my mind on what we just spoke about. Like it does. There are some benefits to it or a lot of benefits. It's gonna make things easier, especially on a big feature. The problem that I just came along is at DuoChat, we are working on multiple features at the same time. And just like from planning, I am not sure what we will be prioritizing next milestone. So if I duplicate things now, I know I will have to maintain them for quite a bit. And if we then work on different features, that is then two pieces to build those in. And this is where you might have done like a worse deal than you initially thought. I'll weigh up the pros and cons here.
I think you'll have to deal with some kind of complexity. Let's say that one option is to have if else's across your wall code branch, and have logic there that would require this detailed testing. And I would suggest having just one feature flag there, not to have this multiplication of feature flag.
Yeah,
Try to
that's a plan. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one option for having complex problem, a lot of if else's in the code base. And maybe the new contributors would new contributions would have to acknowledge those branches. Like things can break even now if someone submits a change in the API or something and doesn't test the feature with your feature flag. That might bring issues. The other option for having problems is copy pasting the code folder and then having another MR to try to merge these updates. Yeah, I don't think that there is an ideal solution to that. These are
Yeah.
two options.
There's always a pitfall for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
But
some opportunities. Oh, go ahead.
no, sorry. Go.
Like there's some opportunities I see sometimes when we throw in a whole bunch of if flags, and because we're introducing a new feature, there's some opportunities to, even though it may feel like overkill, because when we think about the where the code's going to end up, what I'm saying is that sometimes we want to address it architecturally. Like sometimes just changing the interface to our root component to um compose and receive like a new slot or something like that that handles some of this stuff that's like plug and play behavior, because that's kind of the way feature flags work. Is feature flags are plug and play behavior, where when the feature flag's on, we're going to plug in this new behavior. And sometimes that's like, rather than if flags, it's like, oh well, we have a different implementation to an interface or something like that. um Sometimes we could just refactor our current component so that the footprint of ifs is a lot slimmer. And in reality, it might just be a slot that we throw in when a
Yeah.
feature flag is enabled. And I like that, even though it could feel like overkill from a design perspective, because you're kind of just designing for the feature flag. But the reality is, because we're implementing this with a feature flag, it is plug and play behavior. And so it's like, okay, how can I take this behavior? How can I take it where I can inject it as something that composes the existing behavior.
Yes, very, very much so. And you benefit from this in the long run for sure, because the
Yeah.
next feature flag is just around the corner.
Yeah.
That is for sure something like we haven't in the components I'm currently looking at, we haven't done that homework in a while. Like, I really feel like this is really a one-trick pony at the moment. So to bring like any dynamic into this, we
Mhm.
actually have to address some issues that are seem unrelated in the first place.
Yeah, and that might be the first merge request is how do we refactor this to make the feature flag have less of a footprint, which would
I
be
see
interesting.
this upcoming for sure.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, this is an interesting problem. Thanks for bringing it up. This is a cool feature. Yeah. So Duo chat is that's helps you can talk to your teammates. Is that what this feature
Yes,
is?
yes, very, very much so. And those teammates in there, they are pretty nice, always.
They're pretty nice
So
teammates.
yeah. They always say very, very friendly things, and we speak a lot about many things. Yeah, it's good.
Can I
Not
send
so
can
smart,
I
but
s-
super friendly.
can I send them patches so they could create a Mars and I could approve them?
That's what Duo workflow is for.
Yeah.
Man, that's next level, man.
Yeah.
That's funny. Duo like takes, for your open source project, it's just you. It takes your engineering base from 0 to 1. Like
Basically.
now I have another engineer working on this thing. Anyways, no, this is a cool feature. Uh, I'm assuming that like if there's a large chat history, we'll do like an infinite scroll thing. Is that kind of
Yeah, I need to double check the specs. Infinite scroll or pagination, one or the other.
yeah, I don't know. Um, is
That
the
is actually that is a problem on the back end. Like from what I can see now, currently there is like no performance optimization implemented in this. So there's like a list request, and then you fetch it, and you get this just puts the
yeah.
whole history at you, like every thread with every information in there, which works great for 2 threads, but probably not for 2,000.
Oh man. Yeah, that's interesting. Uh yeah, I think it'd also be helpful to get some like when as some text for when we do a search and nothing's found. I see that's kind of missing in one of the designs.
Don't be misleaded. This is not a search box. This is just a weird styled info.
Oh, I thought that was a search box.
Yeah. It
Why did I think that was
might
a
be in
search
an
box?
because it looks like it might be in an upcoming iteration, but currently there's no search.
Chats with no activity in the last. Ah, that's helpful. I thought it was a search box. I would have been clicking it trying to search.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this is well, yeah, it's a first iteration for sure. So
Cool.
there's plenty of
Cool.
room for optimization.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah,
Well,
and
hey,
I'm
thanks
not getting
everybody.
into the performance optimization beats just yet. Let's build it simple for now, and then we're gonna get there.
Well,
Awesome. It was
sometimes
glad to see
sometimes
you,
you gotta
folks.
sometimes you gotta solve it, the performance stuff.
I will not
Purpose.
let you and your nerd snipes influence me in this.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for bringing up these interesting topics. All right. It was good seeing you all. I'll catch you all later.
Good fun. Looking
Bye.
forward. Have a
See
great
you.
weekend.
Bye.